Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Yasmin, and as you already know, in the previous video, I'm studying at IAIN Samarinda, majoring in English Education, Local 3, Semester 2. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about phonology. Phonology. Etymologically, phonology comes from phon, means sound, and logy means science. So, phonology is the study of sound. Well, phonology is a branch of linguistics for the study of microlinguistics, and it also has its subdisciplines. The division of the branch of linguistics for phonology is phonetics and phonemics, and sometimes for phonemics, the term called phonology also. To examine the difference between phonetics and phonemics, we can illustrate this from a quotation. So, the relationship between phonetics and phonemics, or phonology, can be illustrated by a famous quotation taken from Pike Kinnett in 1994, where phonetics gathers the raw material and phonemics cooks it. So, in order to understand better, we see the difference by definition according to experts. Phonetics, the study of production, transmission, and reception of speech sounds, by Todd, 1991. Phonetics means the study of how the sound is produced is transmitted until we can hear the sound with our sense of hearing. While phonemics, the study of sounds and sound patterns of a specific language, how the sound we examine the pattern or the rules that arrives at the forms of the sound in a certain sound or a certain language. According to Lin, phonetics is a study of speech sounds as sounds in any human language. It is a study of speech sounds or language in human language, not animals. Meanwhile, phonemics, the study of how the sounds are organized and how they function in a language. How do the sounds of the language be organized, and how do they function in a particular language? Okay friends, now let's learn about phonetics. From the picture, it appears that the woman says something that is heard by a man. Phonetics is revealing how the sound of a language is made. Look at the screen. There are articulatory phonetics, acoustic phonetics, and auditory phonetics. The first is articulatory phonetics. Articulator means speech tool. By definition, articulatory phonetics is the study of how speech sounds are produced by human speech apparatus, whereas acoustic phonetics is the study of how speech sounds are transmitted or distributed and how the language is transmitted, like the waves seen in the picture. Meanwhile, auditory phonetics is how the sound of the language is heard, how the listener perceives and understands the sound, or how someone hears the sound of the language. That is the study of phonetics. And friends, it can be concluded like this. Articulatory phonetics is speech production. How do we produce sound? And to produce sound, there is a place and a manner. Is the place near the teeth or on the roof of the mouth? Is the manner explosive or nasally? Then, the acoustic phonetics is transmitted to our ears by how the pitch, loudness, and quality are. Whether the tone is high or low, then our ears will hear it, resulting in speech perception. Okay, now we get to phonemics. phonemics is how to code these sounds, meaning that here we understand how these sounds of the language are used in a particular language in order to convey meaning. So, for this phonemics, we hear the sound of the language from the phonetics earlier. Then, how the sound of this language shows the meaning. So, phonemics studies sound to convey meaning. Now, look at the table on this screen. There is the sound of the language in English. There are diphthong or double sound in the upper right table, vowels in the upper left table, and the sound of consonants in the bottom table. And friends, for sound, there is also voice and voiceless, vibrating and not vibrating. And the one marked green means voice sound, and the voiceless sound marked with a more light green. So anyway, from phonemics, we understand that certain sounds produce certain meanings. And to understand that, we can also understand it from the International Phonetic Alphabet or IPA, where, for English, there is a plosive bilabial, a plosive sound that is on the lips, for example, p and b. The p one is voiceless sound and the b one is voice sound. Alveolar plosive, for example, t and d. For more detail, this can be studied in the pronunciation course, but the basic science comes from the study of phonology. Now, for the symbol vowels, there is a lead vowel in front called close and the vowel behind called back. There are also those that are open, so when we pronounce the sound a, our mouths are open, and some are on the back. This can be studied in more detail in pronunciation as well. And now, we learn about articulatory phonetics, or our speech tools. It's defined as any vocal organ that takes part in the production of a speech sound. To produce language sounds, we need a speech organ. What is the speech organ? The speech organ is our speech tool, the same as the articulatory. What is in this picture is our speech tools, so that we can produce language sounds and can be heard by people. There are two vocal sounds that we need. There are active articulators and passive articulators. The active one is the speech organ that can be moved, while the passive one, those that remain fixed. The active ones are our tongue, lips, and vocal cord, and the passive ones are the teeth, the hard palate, alveolar ridge, phlegm, and pharynx. These are the speech tools that we use to produce sounds. If something is broken, it means that the sound of our language is not perfect. Then, there are 7 main articulators by Roach 1991. There are the pharynx, the phlegm, hard plate, the alveolar ridge, the tongue, the teeth, and the lips. These 7 articulators are the most important speech tools for producing sound. And there are 3 speech tools that are no less important. Namely, the first is the larynx, the second is the jaw. If our jaw is damaged, then the sound will be different and imperfect. And last but not least is the nose and the nasal cavity to produce nasal sounds, such as the ng sound. As I explained earlier, the produce of a sound in language, there is a place to pronounce the sound. Then, there is a place for the sound to occur. Manner of articulation. There are plosive or stop, fricative, affricative, nasal, lateral, and approximate. While place of articulation, there are bilabial, labiodental, dental, alveolar, palatoalveolar, and feral. For example, for bilabial, the sounds that will come out are p, b, and The upper and lower lips meet. Bilabial is included in the plosive. When we say it, it will pop. If it doesn't pop, it means it's wrong, and it turned out to produce this sound. There is a voice and voiceless too. Fricatives are sounds like the nasal sounds such as lateral sounds like and approximant. Then for the place, the dental is in the teeth, such as the sound and and voiceless are located at the base of the tongue, and the teeth in the upper and lower teeth. Now, vowels and consonants. Vowels are sounds in which there is no obstruction to the flow of air as it passes from the larynx to the lips, by Roach 1991. It is defined as those sounds produced with oral cavity relatively open to the flow of air, by Jufrizel 1999. So, the vowel is the sound that is released when we produce the sound A or when we produce the O sound. There are no obstacles. Meanwhile, the consonants had obstacles. Consonants are sounds produced with a constriction or occlusion in the oral cavity. There is an obstacle in the oral cavity. For example, when we produce P and B sounds. And that's the difference between vowels and consonants. Okay friends, now we go to voice and voiceless. Voice sounds are produced when the vocal cords are almost closed and air from the lungs causes them to vibrate. Voice sounds have vibration, and all vowels are voiced, while voiceless sounds are produced when the vocal cords are open. All consonants appear in voiceless or voice pairs like P and B. And now we discuss phonetics and phonological or phonemic studies. It can be subdivided into two levels. The first is segmental and the second is suprasegmental. Segmental is what you say, while suprasegmental is how you say. Now, we examine segmental first. Difference between phonetics and phonological studies. Segmental for phonetics. To define the articulatory properties of all human speech sounds, like the sound in the picture above and below. The top image is voiceless, dental, fricative, and the one below, the Z, is voice, dental, fricative. So, the sound Z vibrates and does not vibrate. Sound is where our tongue is between the upper and lower teeth, and how to sound it, there must be friction. For phonology or phonemics, what is the function of the sounds? From the sound earlier, what is the function? Both examples of this sound can only be found in English. Meanwhile, in German and Indonesian, it is not found and does not work. That's why phonology or phonemics is the study of sounds or the function of these sounds in a particular language. Now, take a look at the suprasegmental one. Suprasegmental for phonetics investigates aspects such as pitch, loudness, and length. The pitch is measured in hertz, each person speaking a different tone. Like, I want to go to campus. I want to go to campus. The loudness is like, really? Really? And the length were the seconds. How many seconds he or she mentioned it. That precision and accuracy are in phonetics. What about suprasegmental phonemics, or so-called suprasegmental inventories? Suprasegmental inventories investigates pitch, stress, and intonation because these phonemics are inventories of discovery. Discover what the function of the language is. Pitch, the intonation. How loud it is to investigate stress phenomena. Now we see the explanation. For the phenomena, intonation can be seen from the tonal variation. A woman looking at a pink cat said, I saw a pink cat. The man said, really? How about the variation of the intonation? Just flat, right? If he raised the intonation to really, the meaning would be different. So, the suprasegmental function for these phonemics is to convey the meaning. Now, for the second part, stress. There are also variations in the stress. There are lexical stress and shift stress. We discuss lexical stress first. For lexical stress, for example, the word contrast in English is contrast. When lexical stress is emphasized and the emphasis is on the beginning of a syllable, then its function is a noun. And when we emphasize at the end of a syllable, then its function is a verb. Then we go into stress variation, shift stress. When we put emphasis at the beginning, it is different from the emphasis at the back. For the word 13, a 13-year-old girl, the emphasis is on the beginning of the syllable. When we say she is 13, it is emphasized on the back of the syllable. That is called shift stress. We shift the stress. There is a different way of conveying sentences and different phrases as well as the emphasis. And it turns out that the suprasegmental function or suprasegmental phonemics also has a weakening for stress variation. For example, when someone says he asked 4 questions, we know that he asked 4 questions because he emphasized the word 4. But when weaken it, it means not 4 anymore, but 4. He asked 4 questions. So, the suprasegmental function for phonemics or phonemics phonological studies help us find meaning. That's why phonetics is the raw material and phonemics is the place to cook it. phonetics only gets its properties, whereas phonemics is that we can know its function and know its meaning in a particular language. Okay friends, I think that's all about phonology in this video. Thank you for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you next time.